Hey mates, how you doing? I know I am not the most consistent when it comes to filming, but today I'm ready to surprise you a bit with some useful tips. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? Let's not waste any time then. First off, just a heads up, I'm not playing a role of a teacher today. Everything I share here comes from my personal experience as a language learner. I have coped with English, German, French, Dutch, Latin, Spanish, and Italian. While I'm fluent only in English and a little bit of Spanish, each of these languages has left its mark on me, and I'm super excited to share what I have learned with you. I won't bore you with some generic advice. Instead, I will share some real life examples. Now we can start. Find your goals. Without a specific aim, it's tough to stay motivated. I have never met anyone who studies a foreign language just for fun. Usually there's a meaningful goal, like for work, for traveling, for a hobby. Setting a clear goal will help you choose the right textbook, topics, and tailor your learning plan. It also makes tracking the progress much easier. For example, I studied Italian just to understand my favorite singers, songs, and interviews. Surely I focused on some music and art topics, I listened to more songs, more podcasts, and I felt accomplished when I could understand full sentences without using a dictionary. Your goal doesn't have to be that huge. It should be something you care about, or you will lose your motivation. Once you set your goal, you might feel unstoppable and dive in for hours. But will you have the same energy to keep going the next day? Starting too rigorously can lead to burnout. It's better to take it step by step. That way, you will keep improving without exhausting yourself. Several years ago, I made this mistake with Spanish when I decided to review everything we had learned at the university. I spent hours going through all these notes and grammar. So the next day, I felt too burnt out just to look at this folder. So please be realistic about your schedule, goal, and energy. Don't rush it. And logically, from the previous advice, you might have already realized this. Don't try to study everything in one day, exhausting all your energy and motivation. It's better to spend 5 minutes daily to reach your goal without burnout and long pauses. I use this approach to boost my English. Like every evening, I read some news in English, jot down some attention-grabbing vocabulary, and review it the next day. So in just 10-15 minutes a day, you can learn at least 5 new phrases in your target language and steadily progress without feeling overwhelmed. Learning something new is rewarding, but it's crucial not to forget what you have already learned. You may use your target language every day, but not always to its fullest potential. For example, you know conditional sentences, but how often do you use third conditional? Probably not every day, right? That's why we have revisions. I don't mean that you just need to sit and reread all the rules. There are plenty of interactive ways that you can use. For example, simply Google the topic and find online exercises for your topic. You can send the rules or the vocabulary list to ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence tool, and ask it to create you some tasks, to fill in the gap, to correct the mistake, to rewrite the sentence. Moreover, there are already plenty of interactive websites such as Genially, Kahoot, Bamboozle, WordWall, where you can find engaging tasks for your topics. Sometimes revision happens naturally when you read or listen to something and you notice some familiar words or structures. When this happens, try to recall the meaning of the word and create your own example with it, just to reinforce it. When it comes to vocabulary, spaced repetition is a great technique. So you learn the word, then you review it the next day, then in a week, and then in 2 weeks. This way you will strengthen your long-term memory. Revisions are vital because no matter how advanced topics you study, your brain may get rid of some basics. For example, plural forms, articles, perfect infinitive. So regular practice keeps our knowledge fresh and easy to be activated whenever you need it. Speaking of activation, you may learn thousands of new words, but without using them, they will fade away. Here's the deal. There are 4 main skills in the language learning. 2 perceptive, reading and listening, and 2 productive, it's speaking and writing. So when you learn the word, you can immediately recognize it in some text or in the speech. So in the reading or in the listening activities, which makes them the part of your passive vocabulary. But to truly master a language, you need to activate these words using them in your speaking or writing. I have faced this trouble with my advanced English vocabulary. Like, I have learned a lot of new interesting words, but I don't use them in my conversation. So I call it passive advanced, when I understand the words that I learned, but I can't produce them, I can't use them. So how should we activate the vocabulary? Create your own stories, write a diary, write your own examples with these words, and speak, speak, speak. One method I use is talking to myself, creating various scenarios so I can practice target language and at the same time boost my creativity. So this naturally leads us to our next tip, practice. As I mentioned earlier, we need to activate our knowledge through practice. And beyond using AI, Google, or talking to yourself, there are more grounded ways to do that. Join a speaking club. For example, I have created one for my friends and ex-students where we can just practice English. Or find some language buddy, speak with foreigners. There are plenty of platforms to do that nowadays. I always tell my students, if you want to practice, I'm always up for a conversation in English. That's a practice for me too. Just don't limit yourself. And while practicing, try to use new words, new grammar, new structures. That makes your practice even more satisfying. Don't burden yourself studying some boring or overly advanced topics. You will quickly lose your motivation. Why don't you choose something interesting and encouraging? For example, if you love music, then immerse yourself in it, learning about it, reading related articles, and listening to the songs in the target language. If traveling excites you, then watch travel blogs, read about adventures, and plan your new trips, even within your own country, in the target language. Find the topics that you genuinely enjoy, and you will improve your language skills with pleasure. But remember, as you advance, you need to tackle more complex topics. But please leave the rocket science for higher levels. Learning a language is not just about memorizing words and completing textbook exercises. It's about creating an immersive environment in the chosen language. Watch films, listen to music, listen to podcasts, read without feeling pressured to write down every new word that you see, or read the books that you have already enjoyed in your native language. Explore the internet, follow some bloggers and celebrities who are the native speakers, create your own diary or make your own blog in the target language. And by integrating it in your daily life, you will get accustomed to the pronunciation, grammar, and even some slang. You will naturally acquire this passive knowledge, so then the only task will be to practice it, to activate it, and to be proud of your results. Learning languages can be tough and challenging even with regular practice. Take it from me, but having a well-trained memory is incredibly useful if you want to excel in a foreign language. I have found it super beneficial to learn poems by heart. It has strengthened my long-term memory since childhood. You can wake me up in the middle of the night and I will recite you the beginning of Les Maqueta or Shevchenko's Testament in English, Ukrainian, and Spanish. I can also name you all my classmates from school, and I can recall all the tourist attractions that I visited in Italy in 2019. So why is that so important? The more you train your memory, the easier it is to memorize new words. Then just refresh them occasionally and you will find success in your language learning journey. Memorizing new words without further reviewing is ineffective. But do you know what's more pointless? It's learning words in isolation. Never learn the word without some collocations it is associated with. For example, you have the word strive. Don't just memorize definition. Find out what common prepositions and nouns are used after it. Strive for excellence. Strive for dignity. You can do that with the help of Collocation Dictionary. Also, our teacher at the university made us create a glossary with 8 columns. So we write the word, the part of speech, translation, transcription, definition, then derivatives, common collocations, and synonyms. So at first we were flabbergasted by the amount of work involved in just one glossary. But then we understood how effective this idea was. So you learn the word by already seeing it in the common collocation and its forms. While I'm not suggesting you make such a glossary, just remember, avoid learning words without their context. Some teachers might disagree here, but I, as a language learner, find this technique really effective. So I used it for studying Spanish, drawing on my background in English and Latin. And I noticed so many similarities that it made the process of memorizing new words super fast. Then I even created my own glossary of similarities, and I was amazed at how many borrowings English and Ukrainian have from Latin. But be cautious. Not all the words that look alike have the same meaning, so that can lead to misunderstanding. Be really careful. Knowing a language means that you can read, write, speak, and understand almost everything in it, right? But achieving this is possible only through developing all skills step by step, not just focusing on one area, for example, reading. I have experienced this with Italian. I can understand written and spoken Italian, but I can't speak or write. I know that the reason for this is that I haven't been working actively on my productive skills. That's why you should pay attention to all the skills and develop them equally to avoid some limitations and to achieve great command of your target language. I believe that by combining all these pieces of advice, it will be great for achieving success in any language learning journey. So, I have gathered all the links I've been talking about throughout the video in one document that you may find in the description. If you have tried any of these pieces of advice, let me know. If you know something more, tell us about it. If you have questions, I'm really glad to help you. Thank you a lot for your attention, and I hope see you soon in the new video. Bye bye!